Hi there. Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Tuesday, October the 7th, 2025. I'm not sure if I'm happy or mad or sad, or maybe a little of all three right now, and have been since about 1 o'clock Central Time this afternoon. Tamara Lich and Chris Barber were sentenced today, you see, and the judge, Heather Perkins-McVey, who has been with this case for, 3 years now? Has it been 3 years? It's been a long time. She did a 3-hour soliloquy before finally bringing the sentences down earlier today. First Chris and then Tamara. We'll tell you all about that a little bit later on. There's a documentary coming out around Christmas time, the holiday season, I think. We saw the first trailer of it a couple of weeks ago from our friend Greg Wycliffe. Greg, among other things, has been a candidate for the PPC. He's an online commenter. He is with the Dominion Society of Canada, dominionsociety.ca, and now he is a filmmaker and producer. And Greg is our guest tonight. The film is called The Hate Network, revealing the inner workings of the anti-hate network, among other things. The anti-hate network, of course, that Marxist propaganda rag produced by a guy called Bernie Faber, I think his name is, and funded, at least in part, by our money, our tax dollars. So we're going to get to Greg and Tamara and Chris in just a couple of seconds. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
I've been struggling with acne for a while, and my mom brought me SilverCeuticals, and I did not want to try it at first because I hate all that stuff on my face. But I'm super glad I did because it hydrates my skin, doesn't leave me dry. I don't use coconut oil on it anymore. And I'm super glad my mom showed me it, and I'm glad she's showing other people because I think it does wonders. Some of the other things I love about SilverCeuticals is that it's natural, it's not a pharmaceutical, and it just makes your skin glow and feel super hydrated. You don't feel like dry at all, and it just keeps that way for the entire day, and that's awesome. I've had a few people comment on how my face has cleared up. It's mostly been family members, and once my mom told them what I was using, they finally started using it too, and they're seeing great results as well. If a kid told me that they were struggling with skin issues, I would 100% recommend SilverCeuticals because it fixes everything and it's amazing.
Don't forget, Canada Nano Silver will be at the Regina Health and Wellness Show coming up the weekend after this long weekend in Regina, obviously. I think it's the 11th or 12th year in a row for the Regina Health and Wellness Show. If you want free tickets to that event, if you're going to be in Regina that weekend or you're there already, then get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the email info@CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. They look forward to meeting you. Before we bring Greg on tonight, I want to play this again because I was so very impressed with this, and it's not quite finished yet. This is the trailer for an upcoming documentary called The Hate Network, produced and written by Greg Wycliffe.
Freedom Convoy, where I saw truckers beaten on Wellington Street right outside Parliament Hill. I've been to protests where I've seen high school students beaten by Antifa while police and members of the teachers union watched. I've seen pastors, protest organizers, and Canadian patriots thrown in jail, all for what they believed. What is happening in Canada? There are now countless Canadians persecuted, all for voicing their opinion. And who is telling their story? I'm Greg Wycliffe, and I'm producing a documentary called The Hate Network. It's all about how Canadian institutions target, censor, and smear Canadian citizens who dare to disagree with the ruling ideology. Here is a sneak peek preview.
When I was growing up in Poland, the language the government were using was anyone that was patriotic was a troublemaker.
Online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, and hate.
Do you think we live in a free country?
No.
Who the fuck cares about that paper anymore?
You caught the RCMP in lies.
We caught them in lies ourselves during the convoy.
Why was I even arrested?
Start there.
Far too many Canadians face hatred and discrimination.
I was basically accused of teaching my children hate.
I've got death threats many times. I had death threats.
The guards were giving them incentives to murder me in prison.
If you challenge any of the current government and media narratives of the day, they're going to come after you.
Including adding a definition of hatred to the criminal code.
Hate speech, which, what does that even mean?
Because now you have the most sensitive people in the room deciding what everyone else can say.
This is also a country where unserious people start unserious organizations like the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
It's almost the attack dog for the Liberal Party.
These are Antifa journalists being funded by our federal government.
We are very proudly anti-fascist and we focus on the far right.
They are consistently found to be fraudulent.
Setting the agenda on what constitutes hate and how that hate should be addressed.
They're not shooting us dead on the streets yet.
Charlie Kirk has been shot.
Like, it's okay if we died.
They're not concerned about the safety of everyone.
Canadian kindness is an illusion.
Bullies, racists, bigots, and Nazis.
Being defamed is a horrible experience.
Because of a joke? They needed a boogeyman for their Emergencies Act, right?
You cannot live in a country where you actually believe something and you're not allowed to say it.
What's hanging over my head was 50 million and 15 years prison.
The process becomes the punishment.
When is this tyranny going to end?
Is Canada free? Not for some.
Dude, that's great.
Thank you.
Greg Wycliffe, everybody. You know, when I first saw that, I went, whoa, you've got some pretty big guns in that trailer, and I'm sure you've got more up your sleeve when this comes out. How long have you been working on this?
My whole life, it feels like. No, over the past year or so, I connected with this award-winning filmmaker, and that's when things started to pick up. We started to actually record the interviews and bring everything together. But even before that, I and a few others had already started to do the research and started to do the script writing, really collecting all of the dirty laundry on some of the smear merchants in Canada, mainly the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. That was kind of the original sort of purpose of the project, is to sort of air out the dirty laundry of this organization and how they really foment hatred against, most of the time, right-wing people. And from there, you know, it kind of cascaded in all sorts of different directions, because when it comes to the fomenting of hatred against certain Canadian citizens, there's actually really clear patterns on very specific ideas.
Like what?
Well, I kind of summarized it at the beginning, but essentially anybody who opposes the ruling ideology in Canada and they're effective at it, you will get targeted. You will get smeared. You will be dehumanized in the media. You'll get attacked in various ways. And depending on how effective you are, you know, those kind of escalations of attack will be more dire, you know, when it comes to attacking your livelihood, trying to, you know, get you charged in some way, to get you caught up in legal battles and all sorts of things like this. It's pretty dirty. It's pretty dirty things that go on. And but for the documentary, the kind of three basic categories are: number one, the obvious one, anyone related to the convoy or who opposed the COVID lockdowns or the COVID vaccine mandates.
Yeah.
Very obvious one. The second most obvious one is anybody who opposes or questions the transgender ideology in schools. Like clockwork, these people, even just regular concerned parents, regular concerned teachers who are asking very valid questions, will get demonized, will get smeared like clockwork in many cases by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. And the category is kind of open to anybody who just opposes the government in general, or is especially effective in general. And also, I guess, outspoken Christians who are true Christians, God-fearing Christians. They will also get targeted, smeared, dehumanized. You know, I'm sure you've heard of Pastor Artur Pawlowski in Calgary.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard of his background, but I sat down with him for 3 hours in our interview for the documentary.
He's a colorful character, isn't he?
He's been through a lot. You know, the idea that the government is going to persecute you wrongly because you make them look bad, he knew all about this before COVID lockdowns. You know, this was nothing new for Artur Pawlowski. And another common theme is I interviewed a number of people who have come from communist countries and are totally heartbroken with what's become of Canada. So I know I went off on a bunch of tangents there, but
no, that's fine. I mean, you know, the thing about the targeting, you know, you point out the trans ideology and the COVID lockdowns and the mandates and all of that. And I imagine this applies to anybody who opposes the idea that there's 215 dead bodies of First Nations kids in Kamloops at that residential school or former residential school. I also believe this will apply to anybody who doesn't believe that there's a climate emergency. And, you know, they convolute everything so incredibly well so as to baffle the average normie out there and brainwash them, I suppose. But aside from the anti-hate network, and I do want to bring in your thoughts on Tamara and Chris sentencing today a little bit later on.
Of course.
How far does this go, Greg? I mean, the anti-hate network is one thing, but is this embedded in Canadian left-wing corporate media?
Well, let's start with the Canadian Anti-Hate Network and what they're connected to, with what we actually know about. So we know that they have received over $1 million in funding from the Liberal federal government. So we know that they get funded by the Liberals. We know that they have helped advise on legislation in the past. This legislation is basically gunning for our free speech to take it away under the guise of hate speech. It's had many iterations. There was Bill C-36 back in 2022. People probably don't remember that one because it didn't get too much steam. But last year it was Bill C-63, which is a very scary bill. And of course, now it is Bill C-9, which is all about this anti-hate. They actually have like hate and like, you know, redefining hate, all this stuff. And their fingerprints are all over that stuff coming from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Now, also the Canadian Anti-Hate Network has a whole, you know, there's antihate.ca, but you can also go to, I think it's antihate.school. I forget what the URL is, but they have a whole system of trying to indoctrinate children with their view, their overtly, explicitly anti-fascist view of the world.
Now,
they want to
hang on. You say
schools.
Anti-fascist. I believe that they are fascist. You know, that's the whole thing about the left, right? Like they call us what they are. They call themselves what we are. They, in fact, are the fascists. They're the ones out in the streets knocking heads around, wearing masks with weapons. So let's call a spade here. I mean, and you've seen it. You've been exposed to it up close.
Absolutely, man. Like ever since the death of Charlie Kirk, this stuff has ramped up we have the response of Donald Trump calling Antifa a terrorist organization in America, which, you know, I feel like
not just calling them that, but actually branding them as a terrorist organization officially.
There is numerous like clear examples of Antifa people committing political violence in Canada. The most egregious one probably is during the trucker convoy. You know, it wasn't just the convoy in Ottawa. There was different demonstrations across the country. There was one happening in your neck of the woods, actually in Winnipeg. I don't know if you heard about this, but an Antifa guy was in a car, a Jeep, and he drove his car into peaceful protesters, peaceful convoy protesters.
I was there that night. I remember seeing it. It was right in front of me.
Yeah, and it's like we know that this guy was like some punk rocker Antifa person who was intentionally driving their car into a group of peaceful protesters. That is like the definition of political violence, the definition of terrorism. He's connected to Antifa, and it got picked up more in the States, on the States news media than it did here.
Well, you know, it's interesting the way the media painted it here. They never made the connection to Antifa, which is why I ask. I mean, you know, because I ran a special on Antifa with, who's that reporter in Portland? Andy No. Yeah, I ran this special, Andy No special on the extension on the website the other night. And these people are embedded everywhere. I mean, they are in corporate media. They're in law offices. They're in government. They're in police departments. In some cases, they're in the military. And because they don't wear a uniform when they're not out in the streets rioting, you never know. Like, what is Antifa? When we hear about it, we think, okay, that's Black Bloc. That's those kids in the street causing havoc, breaking windows and throwing bricks and setting fires and turning police cars upside down. But I've heard them describe it more as an idea.
Yeah. Well, just another kind of quick example, which people might remember. There was these sort of, Million Man March for Kids that happened in the September months. I think it was a couple of years ago. There was one protest where Josh Alexander's brother, Nicholas Alexander, got like his eye sliced open by violent Antifa protesters who were literally shoulder to shoulder with Fred Hahn, the leader of the CUPE union, largest union, teachers union in Ontario. And he's there like, yeah, like, of course I'm anti-fascist. What do you think? I'm pro-fascist? So he's like right there next to political violence against right-wing people who are protesting this transgenderism in schools. And also before that, there was a leaked Zoom call. Do you remember this? There was a leaked Zoom call, and it was like the higher ups in the CUPE union who are referring to antihate.ca, who are referring to seasoned activists, who are going to record license plate numbers of protesters, I think explicitly or maybe implicitly saying we're going to intimidate concerned parents about this is a teachers union. This is insane how the tentacles of the Antifa ideology go across all of our institutions.
But are they organized? I mean, in if so, in what way? Like, I'm hearing they're in cells, like terrorists from the Middle East.
I think I wouldn't go as far as saying that they're all organized and they're all connected. I don't think it's like that. I think in some capacities they are more organized, but I think it really is a sort of like-mindedness in terms of their politics. And I think that like Antifa politics broadly is very similar to progressive globalism. They hate patriots, they hate Christianity, they hate borders, they hate, they hate a nation state. They want the country to be for everybody. They want, they hate straight white men. It's like, gays, refugees, everything. Like we want as all that as possible. It's very well in line with, globalist politics or progressive, like globalist politics of Justin Trudeau. And there's actually
like Jeff, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is this like Revenge of the Nerds on steroids?
That's an
I'm being kind of half funny here, but these kids who grew up probably feeling marginalized in some way, right? And they want to strike back at society, so they get absorbed into this blob of hatred and victimization, and they just take on that persona and they become radicalized.
There's certainly a rabbit hole you can jump down there. And there's even like research that's been done on this. I think it was actually done in Spain, where some guy was kind of analyzing the sort of personality type of the anti-fascist. And a lot of the time, quite frankly, they are kind of ugly and unattractive people who feel down on their luck. They feel wronged by society. And yeah, they kind of gravitate towards this very spiteful, very resentful driven ideology. And so that's not far off to say this is the Revenge of the Nerds on steroids. That's not a terrible way to put it. Yeah. It would be less funny if like they didn't have so much control over our institutions. And just kind of like add to the urgency. Like, I was really disappointed in the Conservative Party for not jumping on the Antifa thing after the death of Charlie Kirk. This was for the first time in a long time where like the sort of clear path to claiming the moral high ground for a right-wing person, especially in Canada, was right there, very obvious. And like, I do think that like right-wing people need to almost become a little bit more cynical when it comes to politics. Cause like when they say, don't let a good crisis go to waste, like we kind of need to actually, believe that ourselves and capitalize on that. And as I said,
but that is the antithesis of what we are though. Right. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, our whole makeup.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm tired of losing.
No,
I'm tired of losing.
I know.
I'm tired of losing. They're playing the game. We got to play the game too. And it's not like, obviously what happened is tragic, but it's like, in a way, in the States, is Antifa a thing? It's a big threat. Yeah. But in a way, Antifa is almost more active and more prominent here in Canada. I live in Toronto. Have you seen how active Antifa is in Montreal? How violent they are in Montreal? And just across the board, not even that. just the way that their politics bleeds into the CBC, bleeds into our institutions, bleeds into the legislation, like C9 recently. Like, if you read the most recent article from Anti-Hate, because they make this whole comment about how we're an Antifa organization or an anti-fascist organization, and they kind of define what their politics are. It's very similar to what's in Bill C9, which is, in a nutshell, you can discriminate against straight white men as much as you want. Like, they are actually genuinely hateful. They say all these things. They basically assume that, if we don't do something to stop the far right, then we're going to have, abortion will be banned, and there's going to be, marital rape will be legalized. It's like, this is literally in the Anti-Hate article. It's your average Anti-Hate article. It's actually good for a good laugh if you can see the comedy and how absurd it is. But the reason I get so excited about this, since the, Trump declaring Antifa a terrorist organization, is this is really the kind of lifeblood. This is the nucleus. Like, this is the nucleus of the politics of what we're up against. This is like the moral. This is their sort of, it's a fake morality, but like, this is their moral core of being Antifa. Anything that is patriotic is bad. Anything that is, colonial is bad. Anything that is opposes transgenderism is bad. And it's wrong. It's, it's allowed political violence. And also, the thing that I wish people would realize more is we get so casually dehumanized as conservative-minded people on a regular basis everywhere outside of our echo chamber. It's not just on CBC. It's literally everywhere outside of our echo chamber. There's a casual kind of dehumanization of right-wing conservative people. They're backwards. And it was so, like, people are not shocked and outraged enough. And
well, that's what happens when media and government make extremist a regular, everyday, normalized word, right? Or far right. I mean, every time you see an article in the left-wing corporate media about somebody who's conservative, it's always extreme right, far right, all the time. When in reality, these people might be small c conservatives at best, right? That's all they are. They believe in traditional values.
No,
really.
Absolutely. And there's plenty of examples in this documentary. Like one person, canceledteacher.ca is her website. It's Carolyn Berchowski. She's from the Tri-City area. I think Waterloo District School Board is what she was under. And she went to a school board meeting and had some very kind of just level-headed questions. Hey, I got some questions about some of these books from the library. She's a very professional, really heart in the right place, wants to be a good teacher, has worked with kids from all sorts of backgrounds and all that stuff, wants to do a good job, asks these questions in the most polite and reasonable ways possible. No, we're shutting down this meeting. The next day, that night, she's getting called like far right by her union rep on Twitter. This is supposed to be the union representative that represents her at the union as a teacher, slandering her, calling her far right. She's not allowed to go into to work the next day. This stuff is like so traumatizing too, is something that we're going to emphasize in the documentary. Like, being defamed is a horrible experience. You will talk to friends you've known your whole life, and they'll see some headline and be like, oh, well, Rosemary Barton told me you're a demon. And it's like, you've known me. You know me. You know who I am.
How many times have you had to
on TV?
Yeah. How many times have you had to explain yourself to a friend you may not have seen in a while? Because it's happened to me a lot.
This is another reason why I want to get this documentary out there, because like, I feel like I'm crazy when I talk to some of my friends and family who aren't initiated on this stuff. When I say, actually, Canada's not as free as you think it is, they're like, roll their eyes. They're like, what are you talking about? So this documentary is going to be collecting all these stories to show people the trends and be like, yeah, this is our country. This isn't getting talked about. And it really is not only the sort of nefarious nature of these bias organizations like the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, but it's really about the failure of so many of our institutions, especially that's become clear since the convoy. And I'll go back to kind of earlier, one of your questions, like, is it just Antifa or the Canadian Anti-Hate Network? Yes, we have these kind of like overt connections to different institutions, even creating legislation, but there's also institutions acting independently that seem to have the exact same politics as Antifa would. There might be spin-off documentaries. At the very least, there's going to be kind of like larger projects I put on YouTube of just academic freedom in Canada, because there's a trend there. This isn't Antifa. This is the institutions, post-secondary institutions, who are acting in unity with the exact same politics of, you can't say that as a conservative-minded student or professor.
They're embedded, though, Greg. They're embedded in all of the institutions, I personally believe, and that's why this has gotten as far as it has. I mean, how many times you were at Convoy? You saw the way the police turned on a dime that one day and they started treating everybody like they were terrorists. They absolutely could recognize that those people came from all walks, all strata of normal Canadian life. They weren't terrorists. They weren't hired thugs. There was none of that. But yet they go to a Palestine protest. Obviously, those guys, they've got pallets of bricks on street corners. They've got frozen water bottles being delivered to them. They're throwing paint at walls, they're breaking windows, and the cops do nothing. There's an explanation for it, but I'd rather hear it from you.
Well, and that's people bring that up a lot. And we can segue into Chris Barber and Tamara Lich, but it's, with the Chris Barber and Tamara Lich thing, they'll say, look at all these pro-Palestine protests, look at the double standard here. And I totally agree. The only issue with that is we're focusing on how the state gives more sympathy to these like foreign conflicts, as if like they don't really care. And I'll tell you why that is, and why I like a different frame. They don't care as much because it's not holding them accountable. Okay. It's holding some foreign government accountable, or some foreign whatever. Like, sure, maybe some Canadian politicians have made gestures to support one side or another, but it doesn't actually threaten them at their core as the kind of ruling government. Whereas the convoy was threatening them. This government, you are the corrupt ones. You are the problem. That's why they didn't like it. That's why they had to shut it down. That's why we're terrorists. They don't like the fact that we were confronting them as the direct problem. And that's why, it's very true, the double standard of the protests. It's very easy to point at the pro-Palestine stuff and make that connection. I think it's valid. It's an easy way to show people what's going on. But let's not get our eyes off the ball here. Let's focus on the fact that this government really doesn't like it when we target them as them being the problem. And just to kind of jump back to something I said before, it's not just the academic institutions, but also the law enforcement. When like I interviewed some of the Coots guys, and oh my gosh, that is very, very alarming. And of course, if you haven't heard the story of #HateGate with Jeremy McKenzie and Diagolon, that whole thing is such a mess. I think it's best summarized as like the largest intelligence failure in Canadian history in terms of lies told by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, being that, Diagolon is a militia, all this stuff. They copy and pasted that. The media copy and pasted that. That got copy and pasted to our officials, our safety minister at the time, Marco Mendocino. And okay, I guess we're going to call the Emergencies Act then. And one of Marco Mendocino's assistants confirmed, yes, the emergency was called because of Diagolon people.
Diagolon is nothing. It's nothing.
It's a fan club of Jeremy McKenzie's. Okay.
That's it.
And if you want to compare like apples to apples, like violence to violence, like you're not going to find much at all with Diagolon, other than sort of like some very animated comedy bits and a wild kind of podcast.
Do you think that police are compromised in some way? It's either that, or they're taking orders from the top and they're being told to not enforce the law when it comes to some of these protests and some of these people.
A common thread in a lot of these interviews, Shadow, was, I'm doing this because I care about my family and the future of my country. What are these people doing? They're doing it for a paycheck. They're doing it because they're just doing their job. And I think it is that sort of cynical. It's very depressing to think about how many bureaucrats, government workers, maybe just professionals who are like part of crown corporations or adjacent to getting, they get fed by the government hose of money. It's very depressing to think about how they've betrayed their own country quietly, slowly, over time, but they've slowly but surely, they have completely given up on this place, and they only care about themselves and their paycheck. And, may God have mercy on their soul, because I don't know how they live with themselves. I don't know how I would live with themselves, knowing that you're contributing to the slow but sure disintegration of this nation. You know, all these little decisions by these judges, all these little decisions made by these, you know, by the little gremlins or minions who are kind of just doing the bidding of something that is clearly wrong. I won't even say evil for everyone, because not everyone likes that language, but like, it's clearly wrong. It's clearly immoral. But hey, remember that one clip that came out? I think it was at the Rolling Thunder kind of like motorcycle rally after the convoy, and there was some clip of a cop who's like, yeah, well, like, I'm gonna buy a new like swimming pool or something like this. He made some like very cynical, gross comment about, well, I don't really care because I'm getting paid to oppress you people. So it's to me, that's very depressing. And the only way to get through to somebody like that is to win their hearts and minds with our own passion, with our own activism, with our own, you know, like the passion to inspire others. That's the only thing. They seem to be doing
that at Universal Ostrich Farm right now, which is good, because the police are there. They're on the ground there, and they're assigned 12-hour shifts. And the people who are there from their hearts, and they're trying to make positive change and save these ostriches at the same time. And so 12 hours of exposure day after day after day for these RCMP officers to these people seems to have softened them up in some way, from what I'm understanding. We're going to have the ostrich folks on tomorrow night, by the way. Your take on the sentences handed down today to Tamara and Chris. What do you think?
You know, a lot of people are tempted to say that this is good because they're not going to jail. I've seen a lot of people, hey, they're not going to jail. They're not going to jail. This is still a stain on the country right now. I hope they appeal it. I could totally, like, it's easy for me to say I hope they appeal it, because if you're Tamara Lich, if you're Chris Barber, and this has been drawn out for 3 years, draining you of resources, time from your family, and all this, I can see why it's, you know, it's easy for me to say, Greg, easy for you to say, to just appeal it. But I really hope this verdict doesn't stand, because it sets a horrible precedent. I made a TikTok earlier kind of just crashing out about it, because I don't think the Conservative Party is going to talk about this. And I think that's disgusting. We got one tweet from Pierre Poilievre about Tamara Lich and Chris Barber one time over the course of 3 years. Poilievre rose to stardom and leadership of the Conservative Party off the popularity of the trucker convoy. This is, like, you want to talk about betrayal? It's not just from the Liberal Party, guys. Like the lack of sort of using this as a leverage point to challenge the CBC, challenge these Antifa-aligned institutions, to be like, hey, this is wrong. We support these conservative-minded patriots who stood up for fundamental freedoms. If you were unvaccinated, you couldn't leave the country. You couldn't even hold down a job or go into restaurants in some cases. Yeah. Like, did we forget that? And it's like, Tamara Lich and Chris Barber and the many other people who made these massive sacrifices during the convoy COVID times, they were fighting for our fundamental freedoms. That should be the Conservative Party's job. And now that it's politically inconvenient, they're not going to say anything about it. Now that a precedent might be set that a conservative-minded protester, leader of a protester, is going to be treated like a criminal. Like, I'm sorry, if you're being put on house arrest, you're being treated like a criminal. You're being treated like some sort of dangerous person, when in reality, they helped contribute to something that was unanimously positive in the country. And don't give me this whole, well, you inconvenienced Ottawa for 3 weeks, when the people in Ottawa inconvenienced the entire country to a completely insurmountable, uncomparable degree.
Based on nothing, based on no science at all, nothing at all.
It's crazy.
They just did it. So the Conservatives don't talk about the ostrich farm. They won't talk about Antifa when they had the perfect opportunity. They're still waving the Ukraine flag.
Oh my God.
Like, what's going on with these people? This is not the Pierre Poilievre of 3 years ago, or even a year ago, for that matter.
I mean, they are career politicians. They're career politicians. I made a tweet earlier which basically said, stop thinking that the Conservative Party is going to advocate for you. They will only advocate for you if you apply external pressure, forcing them to do the right thing. And there are various ethnic groups who do this to the Conservative Party. You have like the Sikh lobby. You have all sorts of other ethnic groups who are putting pressure on the Conservative Party to do things for their ethnic group, and they're doing it because they're applying that pressure. And it seems that patriotic right-wing Canadians are sort of asleep at the wheel, and they'll just take like little breadcrumbs from Poilievre and believe that Poilievre is going to do the best for them, when it's just totally not the case.
But the alternative, my friend, is so overwhelming. I mean, where do we even begin? I don't think the PPC can do it. We've had that discussion before.
When's the next election?
Who knows?
So it's like and that's what I mean. Like, we're going to wait. We're going to sit on our hands for 3 years, waiting. It's people don't realize how much power they do have. And here's another way to put it. Why do you think people get so upset with me when I criticize Poilievre and criticize the Conservative Party? It's because, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
I think a lot of people are brand loyal. They've been voting that way their whole life, and nothing's going to change for them because they don't see it in any other way than red, orange, or blue.
That might be the biggest part of it. That might be the biggest part of it. But another reason why people don't like that and they condemn me for it is because it is exposing how they're not doing their job very well. I'm like identifying, hey, you could be representing political prisoners, conservative-minded people who are being treated like criminals. Seems kind of obvious. Hey, you could be much more aggressive against immigration in various ways. Seems kind of obvious.
Is it cowardice? It's just not politically expedient for them. They're trying to get that liberal vote so they can finally win government. What is it? Or are they controlled?
Well,
is it big money telling them no?
They're trying to win the liberal vote. And as we've discovered with the elbows up, the guy flipping people off, the liberal flipping people off, we see people celebrating in Canada, celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, the death of a moderate conservative. These people hate you and want to kill you. And you think Poilievre is going to win their vote?
Exactly.
Like, it's insane. And the reason is these people are basically owned by lobbyists and special interest groups. And they're going to answer to them first because it's the biggest threat to their donor base and their political career.
I think it's so frustrating. More than that. I think it's big, big, big money.
So maybe it is, but I don't like to go too far down that rabbit hole because you lose track of how we can be effective. We can be very effective. It's actually a lot simpler than you think. And I think a good example would actually be I'm wearing the pin right here, the Dominion Society. Like we're already, collectivizing people to apply pressure to all political parties, but especially the Conservatives, because they're probably going to be more sympathetic to our message of remigration.
You'd hope so.
It just goes to show that, organizations like the Dominion Society can apply pressure to the Conservative Party, and they've already started to talk about the temporary foreign workers program. Michelle Rempel posted something about getting rid of birthright citizenship. This is stuff that Dominion Society started to talk about just in the summer when we kind of started to launch. And so things can happen. I just think in general, we're finally coming out of the haze of the convoy years. And the lesson there was the same as like right after the convoy, when all these kind of like flailing sort of protests were happening after that, kind of just showing up with the sign without a plan. Like that's not enough. Like you actually need to get a suit and tie on and start to create and build a professional organization that's going to be taken seriously, not just by the working class people, but also by the people in Ottawa.
So we're going to go change things from the inside then. How many good men have tried that and come out corrupted themselves?
Well, I mean, look.
I'm only teasing you. I'm not making fun. I think it's probably the way to go.
You're triggering me, Shadow.
we do have to do that.
Here's the way to put it. Here's another couple things just to get in real quick. Yeah. I like to tell people, like, this isn't Star Wars. This isn't the Death Star. This isn't like we're showing up and we get in our X-Wing fighters and we just shoot one little missile into the little hole and the whole thing explodes and we go home and high five Chewbacca and like maybe we flirt with Princess Leia. Like, that's not how this works. Okay. This is going to be toil. This could be a generational struggle to try and win back our institutions. This is going to take time, and we need the long-term solutions. And quite frankly, it's not what people want to hear. But, the solution is going to kind of be a little bit boring. For example, the Dominion Society has been effective. It's not just me ranting about remigration and complaining about some of the behavior of certain Indians who are now in Canada. No, I'm like going through Excel sheets of members and calling them and taking notes and trying to set them up for volunteer work. It's like a bunch of like busy bee work. And another example of this documentary. Oh my God. I wish I was making more TikToks. I wish I was making more. I'm going through over 24 hours of interview footage, categorizing it, like sorting through it, exporting it in these like large file sizes. But like, this is the stuff that's actually going to make an impact because it's going to reach out of the echo chamber. I'm talking about the documentary now, but it's going to take work. It's going to take hard work. And we need to really look at it like, you know, we need to win this game. We need to play by certain rules of the game. You can deny it all you want. I know the truth. Canada's a corporation. You can say all that all you want, but like, unless you're collectivizing people to move in the same direction, to apply pressure to something, to the Conservative Party, whatever, that's what needs to happen. Even if there is a horrible tragedy apocalypse tomorrow, politics will always be at play. And it's going to be that exact what I just said. It's going to be getting people to be moving in the same direction. Right now, we are putting way too much faith in a very old institution called the Conservative Party of Canada that's rotten, and we need to do it ourselves.
My friend, you need help getting this documentary completed and marketed, right? How do we do that? How do we help you?
Yes, you can go to givesendgo.com/savefreespeech. That is the fundraising portal. You can kind of see the longer extended version of the trailer where I kind of explain how much more funding we need to complete it. We've already had a great fundraising run last week. So we have covered the editing costs, which is huge, but we want to maximize that marketing budget, because with a larger marketing budget is going to reach more eyeballs, more ears. And what's really exciting, I want to emphasize, this award-winning filmmaker I'm working with, he's worked in the liberal arts for a long time. Okay. Like, he's been to the film festivals. He knows the ins and outs of the industry and like how to really appeal to the sensibilities of the masses, including the centrist, center left, and even the CBC elbows up NDP masses.
Whoa.
So we're making a really good union, because like, I come from the right wing world and he comes from this liberal arts world. He's kind of personally checked out of Canada in a way. I won't go into detail, but he's kind of like, I don't know what the hell is happening to my nation anymore. He doesn't really have a platform to voice his political opinion. But with this documentary, he's like, he really wants to do a good job at being able to tell CBC watchers, even, this is what's happening in your country. So it's a really exciting marriage where this documentary will reach out of our echo chamber. This is something you can show your liberal aunt. And I got really excited because right off the bat, we had this script for him. Like, this is the script we're working with. And that was another cost I had to pay up front, is to help him massage the script, because this is like an industry professional, award-winning, goes to film festivals and things like this. But he shuffled the script around and tweaked it. And I was like, oh, that's really clever. Like, it's going to be much more appealing to not just people who are like in the right-wing echo chamber like myself and maybe some of your audience, not to assume. I've been there. You're on the Twitter feed. You're like, oh my God, did you see what Carney did this time? Yeah. But so I'm very excited. Sorry. But yeah, we also need to maximize that marketing budget to reach as many people as possible. There's going to be, of course, screenings across the country.
Yeah. You want to go city to city, right? Like, and do this in what, 10, 12 different places?
We don't have that ironed out yet. But I'm going to show people kind of more of a breakdown of like where the marketing budget is going to go and the different things that it's going to cover. But, once the documentary is done, it's like, marketing it as a whole other thing to really inject life into it. And it's also going to be interesting because we do need to kind of rewrite the end of it to cater to Bill C9 and see like by the time it's being released, where's C9 at? And we will change the call to action to talk about Bill C9. And, direct people to be like, this is it. Like, if this passes, we're going to lose our free speech. Here's why. And look, we'll be, based on what you just saw in the documentary. And that was really like the initial, one of the initial driving things that got me working on this documentary to begin with. Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act, that made me shit myself, part of my language.
Terrified.
Like, I don't want to live in Canada anymore if this passes.
Yeah.
So to
SaveOurSpeech.ca, right?
GiveSendGo.com/save free speech.
Okay, so givesendgo.com/save free speech. Gotcha, my friend. Thank you very much. That trailer is amazing. It's like high end. I am incredibly impressed, and I can't wait to see the final product. Greg, thanks for coming on tonight. Really appreciate it.
There's much more to come. Thanks for having me, Shadow. Always
okay,
a pleasure.
brother. Take it easy. There is Greg Wycliffe. I'm coming right back with the Tamara Lich and Chris Barber's story after this.
Today we're comparing Crest toothpaste to SilverSeuticals toothpaste. First, we're starting out with Crest. It's a classic. It's an original. It's what I've used most of my life. But that being said, it does have its problems. First off, the consistency is so weird and thick, and I get it's a paste, but it really doesn't spread that well. And I must also say that I'm not in love with the taste. I get toothpaste isn't supposed to taste good, but why shouldn't it? But that being said, it does get the job done. Next we have SilverSeuticals. They have 3 flavors, but today we're going with Bubbleberry. And already it smells so good. So I'm excited to see what this tastes like. The consistency is also a lot smoother, and I must say it spreads way nicer in your mouth.
This literally tastes like fruit bubblegum.
Yeah, this toothpaste was pretty good. I actually went in for seconds, and it's infused with nano silver, so it helps remineralize your teeth and keep them fresh throughout the day.
100% go with SilverSeuticals.
And here's the results. What's your favorite toothpaste?
Well, that would be CanadaNanoSilver.com. 204-808-9292. That's 204-808-9292. Don't forget they'll be at the big Regina Health and Wellness Show, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. And if you want free tickets for that event, email info@CanadaNanoSilver.com. So the sentencing came down today for Tamara and Chris, and here's the Canadian Press story about it. Conditional sentences. 18-month conditional sentences for their roles in the protest. Lich and Barber found guilty of mischief, blah, blah, blah. In an Ottawa courtroom packed with Lich and Barber's supporters, Justice Heather Perkins-McVey sentenced Barber to 12 months of house arrest, another 6 months under strict curfew. Lich will serve 12 months of house arrest and 3.5 months under a curfew after getting credit for days spent in custody before she was convicted. Both have a series of exemptions associated with their house arrests, allowing them to work, attend medical appointments and worship services, run errands like getting groceries. And Chris can go and clear the snow from his parents' driveway as well. That had to be added in at the very end today. They got a standing ovation, by the way, in the courtroom as well. As she was leaving the courtroom today after being sentenced, Tamara got accosted by media. And here's some of that video courtesy of Right Blend, at Right Blend on Twitter, all social media.
There's Tamara! Tamara, how you feeling?
They're trying to get in front of her. Look at the media. Look at these guys. Look at these guys. Look at this. Look at this guy. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this guy. He's insane. This guy here, super hands-on. Like, look at this guy. Look at this guy. Arrest him. Look at this goon. Look at this guy. Yeah, arrest him.
Yeah, you were shoving your way like
That's not justice.
That's what it is, typical.
What a joke. That's insane, dude.
Is that guy paparazzi or something? The two lawyers, Diane Magus and Lawrence Greenspan, were spoken to, not harshly, just spoken to by media after the sentencing came down. Here they are.
By the verdict today, sentence today, Miss Magus?
No, I'm not. It was expected to be in the realm of sentences, the sentencing that were provided to other members or leaders of the convoy. So it was an expected sentence.
Can you tell me what kind of message this may send to other individuals who may want to protest, given if it's another protest against government overreach? We see something going on in the Ostrich Farm right now. What message does the court send in terms of other mass protests?
I think the message from the judge was really clear that my client and Ms. Lich had the best intention when they
The verdict today, sentence today, Ms. Megas?
No, I'm not. But don't block the street. Don't interfere with other people's enjoyment of their property is the clear message. I think the judge wanted to make sure in her decision today and even in her decision on conviction that protest is allowed. That's not the issue. It's the matter.
How many people do you think the Freedom Convoy positively impacted?
Well, in our submissions, I said thousands, if not tens of thousands. But we received letters of support from hundreds of people. We've received messages. Tamara has received messages. So this was one of those rare cases where I was able to say to the judge, there were some very positive things that happened as a result of this, what was found to be an offense. And the positive is that there are a lot of people who were inspired by Tamara's example, a lot of people who were lifted up and given hope by what she did.
Are you satisfied with the verdict or the sentencing today, sir?
Yes, the main objective was to make sure she didn't spend one more day in jail, and that was achieved. And so yes, in that sense, we are still very seriously considering an appeal of the conviction for mischief.
I need a little bit
but as far as the sentence goes, we're pleased that she is not going to be spending any more time in jail.
Apologies for that, you guys. We had a slight internet bump there. I am disappointed, but I'm happy these two get to go home. I'm not surprised by this verdict either. We know it was politically motivated. Justice Heather Perkins-McVey has a reputation as being a fair judge. She took 3 hours to deliver the sentencing today. 3 hours. Court started at 10 Eastern this morning, didn't wrap up until after 1 o'clock. An entire nation was waiting with bated breath to hear what was going to happen. So they both get 18-month conditional sentences, house arrest for the first year, and then after that under very tight conditions. Some exemptions here and there. 5 hours every week for the necessities of life, grocery shopping. They get exemptions to go to the doctor if they need to, dentist if they need to, and Tamara gets to go see her grandchild born in the next couple of months. These two have paid enormously over the past 3.5 years. I'm talking about emotionally, spiritually, financially. And it's enough already. And yet the Crown, and when I say the Crown, I mean the government and their entire apparatus, just keep piling on. If this were a football game and it was being refereed fairly, there'd be flags all over the field right now, but it's not being refereed fairly. And we're the only ones who can call that out. And I know it's frustrating sometimes. And Greg was offering some very good solutions tonight. But the big thing, in my opinion, more than anything else, before we can solve any of these problems, is we have to expose them. We have to show people that they actually do exist. And that a lot of this, smoke and mirrors, a lot of it's a scam. What if you could actually get around what's coming? Agenda 2030. What if there was a way to do that? What if you knew, and I knew, exactly what was going on? Because you've got to know what's going on before you can find a solution for the problem. We're going to cover that tonight in the extension with Peter Layden and Mark Moss. Peter Layden is an AI expert who's going to lay out exactly what's going on in our world right now. And Mark Moss is a currency expert and a Bitcoin expert, and he is going to tell us how we can possibly get around the system. That's coming up on the extension tonight for all access pass holders. And thank you, by the way, for the new 22 memberships at shadowdavis.com. We're going to have to hit 200 by next Tuesday night. Right now, we're at 51. So we're 25% of the way there. Mark Carney met with Donald Trump in Washington today, and here's some highlights of the presser they had this afternoon.
I think he's a great prime minister. I mean, He could represent me anytime. I will tell you, I'm not saying that because he's here. No, he is a very strong, very good leader. He's a nice man, but he could be nasty. He could be very nasty. Maybe as nasty as anybody.
How?
I think Canada, let me put it this way. I can tell you this because I deal with lots of leaders all over the world. He is a world-class leader. He's a man that knows what he wants. And I'm not surprised to see that he won the election and won it substantially. And I would think he's more popular now. He's a good man. He does a great job, and he's a tough negotiator.
So then what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man, too. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
I think you got that one.
That could have been good. Thank you very much. Thank you. We also have great policy. We have strong borders. We have no men and women's sports. We have, basic things. We're not going to take your child away and change the sex of your child. We're not going to do things like that.
Okay, so this is the best part because there's Trump talking about this whole trans thing, right? I wonder if he knows that Carney's got a trans kid. Look at Carney's face right now.
Doing to the country is so incredible. And they got away with it with all their woke crap, and now it's stopped. And we have a country that's based on common sense and strength and intelligence. We have the United States of America, and I say it all the time. Other leaders have told me this. Mark hasn't yet, but I think he would. A year ago, we were a dead country, and now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. Maybe Canada. I'll give Canada. But you know what? If I let this go, if we didn't win this election, if we had these people that were running, that were ruining our country, destroying our country with their open borders and men playing in women's sports and transgender from everybody and windmills all over the place, if we allowed that to go on for another couple of years, we would be.
Not only is he hitting the trans thing, but he's also windmills all over the place. He's hitting the renewable energy thing, which is Carney's bread and butter. This is really good. So for all that, yeah, he's a great leader and all that stuff. These guys don't agree on anything.
I'm not sure that we'd even have a country.
Canadians are refusing to go to the U.S. The numbers are down like 23% in the first 7 months of the year. What do you say to Canadians that don't want to go to the U.S. now because of your 51st state talk, because of the trade war, the tariffs, and the fear of also being detained at the border?
And Americans don't want to buy cars that are made in Canada. We have the same conflict. So there isn't. It's something that will get worked out. There's still great love between the two countries, but American people want product here. They want to make it here. Detroit was emptied out and moved to Canada, moved to Mexico, moved to other places, not just Canada. And now they're all moving back, they're moving back. We have, right now, I was just telling Mark, we have 17 trillion, but it's really much higher. That was as of a couple of months ago. We have over $17 trillion being invested now in the United States. As an example, Biden, he was the worst president we've ever had, but they had less than 1 trillion in 4 years. We have more than 17 trillion in 8 months.
Sometimes Trump will exaggerate a little bit. I can't tell you if he is there or not, but no deal. As of yet, there is no deal. We don't know if they spoke about the ostrich situation privately. We don't know if they spoke about the censorship problems privately. We do know, as we pointed out last night in the show, that Trump and J.D. Vance, for that matter, are not happy with the European Union and their censorship plans. Could be they feel the same way about Canada, even as bills C8 and C9 reach second reading in the House of Commons. That's it for the show tonight, you guys. The extension coming up in 2 minutes on shadowdavis.com. Can you get around the system and still live comfortably? Can you get around the system and still stay in your home? without having to live in a shack in the middle of the bush with no running water. Yeah. That's coming up in the extension in just a couple of minutes on shadowdavis.com. We'll see you there. The rest of you, love you all, appreciate you all. Catch you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. We're going back to the ostrich farm tomorrow night. So we'll see you then. Have a great sleep tonight and a great day tomorrow. Bye for now.